What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sports Beat. It is I, Kilo. Today we are talking about the top 6 most irresponsible players in NBA history. He had a difficult career off the court throughout his 10 years in the NBA. He's been charged with sexual assault from his chauffeur. He's been tied up and robbed at gunpoint in 2007, and his 9-year-old daughter was murdered on a separate occasion. Now, this is Eddie Curry, folks, and Curry had no problem of short-siding his misfortune aside from him yelling slurs at his chauffeur, but he squandered $60 million, and that's all on him. Back in 2008, he was loaned $580,000 at an astronomical 85% interest rate. 85%. This is just financially retarded. Now, Curry said that he didn't have a clue how much money he had lost. This just shows he wasn't keeping a watchful eye on his fund. He completely mismanaged it all, and that's a big reason why he lost all of his money. Now, most notably, Curry would pay $16,000 monthly allowance to his friends and relatives. Although it's nice gestures, these kind of acts that end up sucking the money away from players, and athletes need to learn how to say no in situations like this. So Eddie Curry's the number 6 most irresponsible player in NBA history. And moving right along at number 5, here's an example of a guy who placed all his eggs in 2 dangerous baskets: real estate and Rolexes. I'm talking about none other than Derrick Coleman. Coleman made close to $87 million throughout his career, and he ended up owing creditors $4.7 million after a series of poor real estate investments in Detroit, a city that had been crushed by a recession. When the market crashed, Coleman's assets went up in flames, and we all know that Detroit crashed back in the day, so that's crazy. He also had a collection of nice Rolex watches, and now the clock is ticking on whether Coleman will ever be able to pay off his debts, or he will remain sunk for $4.7 million after his NBA money is gone. He is the number 5 most irresponsible player in NBA history. Number 4, Mr. Kentucky himself. I couldn't believe it. Antonio Walker. Now, it's one thing to squander $10 million, but it's another thing to blow through $110 million, and that's exactly what Walker did. However, it must be mentioned that he didn't blow all that money on himself. He did purchase 2 Bentleys, 2 Benzes, 2 Rovers, an Escalade, and a bright red Hummer, but he was too generous. He's another guy that, you know, I've got it, I'm giving away a living for the day. But his generosity did lead to bankruptcy. He would support up to 70 friends and relatives with allowances that made him yet another cash-strapped former NBA star, making him, of course, our number 4 most irresponsible player of all time. Right behind him is going to be, and another one. It was just a shocking list, an eye-opener, because I didn't know number 3, Scottie Pippen, blew through $120 million with irresponsible, lackluster, and financial decisions. One of those decisions was purchasing a $4 million jet that he didn't even know how to work. He had to pay $1 million to repair it. The guy bought a $4 million jet that didn't fly, and he had to pay $1 million to get it fixed. So that is just horrible. Scottie Pippen also made a series of poor investments that led to the downfall of his fat wallet. After running with Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen blew it all. He just blew it all, folks. So that's number 3 of the most irresponsible athletes. I didn't know that about Pippen in the jet. Sorry, I'm mumbo mouthed. But anyways, he is number 3 on our most irresponsible NBA players of all the time. Number 2, everybody knows. If you don't know this one, you didn't watch basketball any in the 90s. Number 2 is going to be none other than Latrell Sprewell, who once choked his coach PJ Carlesimo and was suspended for 68 games. In his arrogance, he declined a 3-year, $20 million contract, saying that he had a family to feed, and, you know, held out on the money. I think that's what wound up running him out of the game. But Latrell looked like he could have used the money, and Minnesota had offered him, but he declined the contract and never played in the NBA again. So that's just crazy to turn down $21 million and not play ball anymore. I don't understand that. He was probably in destitution at that point. But then to go ahead and, you know, Sprewell's house was going to be foreclosed on since he had outstanding payments of $300,000. He was also forced to sell a $1.5 million yacht for half the price. And he made close to $96 million throughout his career. And it would have been over 100 had he signed with the T-Wolves. So that's irresponsible. What are you doing? What are you smoking? What is going on in your head? Number 1, if you don't know, number 1, you never watch basketball at all, because everybody knows about the story of Allen Iverson. He came from Georgetown. He was out of jail. He made $200 million in his storied career, but he is broke. I did read an article that said he had invested $1 million into a bond that would mature by 2020, 2022, something like that. So he does still have money to live on. However, it is not $200 million that he blew through. So it's crazy because after he served his months in prison before his NBA, that put him as kind of a bad guy, but after they saw that crossover, it was all good, you know. And Iverson was a great NBA player, one of my favorites to watch, but he had about 50 friends and relatives he would support, and he's been banned from casinos in Atlantic City and Detroit from overdoing it. And the man most famously known as the Answer is now looking for an answer to pay off his debts. I hope you cash in that $1 million bond. This is the 6th most knuckleheads or most irresponsible players in NBA history. It's your boy Kilo. See you guys another time.